Greetings, friends, from the Brook Cherith. Just wanted to give you a quick update, just share some thoughts with you tonight. We're here at the inn at the Brook Cherith, which is where the cafeteria is for the staff, and also the gospel materials and just prophecy materials. All of our library materials is here in the inn. And so this is one of the main places that we direct people with all of our signs in case of rapture go to the inn here at the Brook Cherith. And this is interesting to consider. Our learning journey has been from this same inn. Everything that we've learned with the celestial events, the geopolitical events, the prophecy, Christian living, everything that the Lord has shown us, and with the medical missions that's part of it, tied with it, dovetails with it, all of it goes together. It's all been from this same place. And we've compiled that information in print form, and you can find links in the description box and on our website and all over the place there. And so part of after the rapture is we're directing people back to the inn here at the Brook Cherith, where they can learn all that same information that the Lord has shown us here at the Brook Cherith. When we look at everything together that the Lord has shown us, and we don't cherry pick, we don't just say, I just want to hear the astronomy stuff, or I just want to hear the biblical stuff. It amazes me how many people skip over the Brook Cherith videos that we put out. You can tell a huge difference. Almost half of the viewership goes away when we put out these videos. But this is the same place where we've compiled all the information. This is where the Lord has shown us all of this information. And so here we are at a very important time where the Lord is bringing our attention back to the place of the Brook Cherith, where He has shown us everything on this learning journey. Because when we pay attention to everything that the Lord shows us on our journey, He can show us things that we will not see or observe or learn if we cherry pick and dictate to the Lord what we want to see. When we have a servant's attitude of, Lord, show me, I want to know truth, just show me. And we have ears to hear what the Spirit says to us, and we listen and observe, no matter whether it's something that we wanted to learn or whether we think it's really out there or whatever. When we have an ear to hear and feet and hands that are quick to obey and go forward with what the Lord wants us to do, He can show us some very incredible things. Some things that at first glance aren't connected at all, but the more that we go forward on our learning journey, listening to everything that He wants to show us, then we can hear and see some incredible things, some incredible nuggets that are very surreal in so many ways, and things that we would have missed if we weren't faithful in going forward, if we weren't faithful in having an ear to hear what the Spirit says to the churches. And so this is very important at this late hour. Are we listening to everything that the Lord is trying to show us on this learning journey? So let's go inside the inn here, and let's just share a few thoughts. And it's interesting, here's the inn, and right behind us is the Brook Cherith, and that view right there's the field where we would observe many celestial signs, and that's where I take a lot of pictures, usually right after sunset. And it's all been from right here at the Brook Cherith Inn. And so this is where we're going to go right now. Just share some thoughts. And so when people do come in to the cafeteria here at the end, this is where we got a lot of our material and a lot of our posters put up, a lot of our material that you'll recognize, links in the description box. Make it easy to find things in case of rapture. They better read that super condensed version of the most important things that they need to get an overview of right away. So this gives them a lot of material, gospel tracts. We have a bunch of gospel tracts for them here that they use in the days ahead. So I just had my lunch here at the end, so I just wanted to sit down and share a few thoughts with you, just some things that are all coming together that they're going to seem like completely unrelated subjects, but they all go together. Okay, first off, we are still working on the laundry trailer power issues, and this is a big challenge with a lot of power. This is just an example. This is a 50 amp cord typically used to power an RV. This is on the high end of the power that you'd be plugging into an RV, a 50 amp cord. But for our laundry trailer, we're actually going to be needing almost 200 amps of power going into that. So if you can imagine, quite a bit more, 4 of these huge thick cords that are about the size of a hose. And so that's a lot of power. This isn't the normal amount of power that you use around the house. It's actually enough power to power 2 houses. So this is a huge important subject, so we're not jumping straight into it. We're taking a lot of time doing research. I've looked at different generators, talked with several people more experienced in that, and we are going to have a certified electrician actually do the wiring for this much electricity. There's no way I'm going to do that. So make sure it's done right and make sure it's safe and all that, because we're talking about a lot of electricity. And we're also talking about a generator that is so large. We are looking right now at it's a 60 kilowatt generator, and it's the same type of generator that you would see if you drive by a cell tower location, how they often have a diesel generator backup system there to keep it running after the power goes out or whatnot. This is the exact same type of generator from that same type scenario that we're looking at. A generator that can put out a lot of power, but it's actually designed to run for several days without stopping. And this is the exact model that we're looking at right now. And nice thing is, if you get them from cell tower locations, as they swap them out over the years, you know they've been rigorously maintained, they're well taken care of, they still got a lot of use in them, they're very reliable, particularly because the companies would take a lot of care of them. But this black area on this generator, that is the fuel tank. It has a built-in fuel tank. And so that's what makes these type of generators so incredibly a perfect match for what we're doing, because these are designed to run for several days from the fuel that's in that fuel tank without much maintenance or monitoring from the staff. And so this is ideal for what we want. Not a lot of disruptions, which you would have with smaller gasoline generators, and you wouldn't be able to put out the power anyway. But this type of generator, it is capable of running up to 90 hours, multiple days without stopping. And so that's incredible. This is what we're trying to get for not just the laundry trailer, but actually for the whole Brook Cherith, because there's going to be enough extra on top of, after the laundry trailer is all powered in and plugged up, there's going to be a lot of extra power that can power the Brook Cherith. And so that makes it ideal, but it also helps further down the road when they start planning on moving to a more conducive facility, whether that's a school or church. One of the first things you have to have in place is the ability for power and water, those 2 things. If you don't have either of those, don't even bother trying to set up a clinic at those locations. So the nice thing about this type of generator is if we can make it movable, and that's part of the challenge, then it can quickly enable them to move to a more suitable facility that can offer treatment and offer aid to a lot more people. For example, if they go to a school or a church campus or whatnot and set up there, then they have a much greater capacity just because of room and space and parking lot and the traffic flow and all that, everything. But power is going to be one of the biggest things that you don't normally have these size generators laying around, so most of the time you can't power the large of a building. So the incredible thing about this generator is it really expands the capacity of the Brook Cherith far beyond the laundry trailer, and this is what we need to focus on at this time right now. The idea of power and electricity. Power most likely go out after the rapture. Opening the door of heaven, I've talked about this before, is probably going to have the same results as an EMP, just because the electromagnetic fields And you know how CERN is trying to open up to other dimensions using strong electromagnetic fields. That field of science with the electromagnetic physics is probably going to have that same result of a huge power surge. Typically what people have been preconditioned to with the thoughts of EMP. So they're probably conditioning the world to that, because once the door of heaven does open, there will most likely be a huge power surge, which will largely go through the connected power grid. Not quite destroying everything or frying everything, but, excuse me, it will with the main systems. So isolated systems that are not connected to the grid, will be fine. Although there might be some saturation in the atmosphere that hinders it for a little bit as it dissipates, but it should quickly go away. They observed that with the Carrington event too. But power should be unaffected on a unconnected system. And this is the way the Lord has been leading, and so this is the way we are going. But there are a lot of logistical ducks in a row that we are trying to straighten out. We don't have the provision yet to actually get the generator yet. We are getting closer and closer, and I strongly believe the Lord is making us do a lot of research, and we're talking to a number of people right now. But we're also running into the challenge right now of, once you do purchase a generator this large, this is as tall as I am. This is a huge generator. Number one, we have to unload it from the tractor trailer when it does come. And so that's a huge challenge, because this is over 3,000 pounds. And then secondly, we have to figure out where we're going to put it, because you can't put it on the ground because we don't normally have a way to move it. So what we also need is a secondary trailer of our own, one that's heavy duty and one that's built to hold this much weight, plus an entirely full fuel tank too, because it's going to sit there. The generator ain't going to move. We got no way to move it. So when we take it off of the truck when it arrives, we want to only put it down one time, because we don't have a way to keep moving it around. We want to put it on a trailer, and then we can move the trailer around as we need to. So we're trying to line up, how do we get it off the truck? What are we going to put it onto? We need provision for what we're going to put it on to, equipment related to that, hiring people to do that. We got to hire someone to ship it here in the first place. So there's several things that we're checking right now, just to have all those ducks in a row. The Lord is bringing in provision, but we do need a lot more. And particularly because not only is this a big ticket item, but we have to pay for the shipping at the same time, then pay some heavy equipment people to unload it for us, and we have to buy a flatbed trailer for it to go on that can handle 10 tons. So there's a lot of big expenses that have to be put out right away when we get the big ticket item of the generator also. And then on top of that, we have to fill up a fuel tank that can last for 90 hours, which is 450 gallons of diesel. So there's a lot of expenses, and please pray and keep this in consideration of how you can be a part of helping the light shine here at the Brook Cherith place, but also help the Brook Cherith place go farther than just this area. There's a lot of issues with power, and this is incredible for me to consider how power is coming back into play here with the Brook Cherith. And again, it goes back to how much time do we have to work on this is a big concern too, but the Lord is leading us to go forward with this, so we are going to go forward in faith. And we saw this with the patient wing. You got to get all the ground ready. You got to do all the preparation first. Make sure it's done right first, because once the Lord does give the green light to go ahead with construction or whatever the next steps, then it goes really quickly. We've seen that before. But the preparation stage is the most important stage. And obviously here at the Pentecost time, around Ascension, there's a lot of things going on right now. You watch the news, there's a lot of questions of that. And so obviously, just from a Christian perspective and a prophetic perspective, we have the question of, Are we going to be able to finish this project? How much time do we have left? Well, we always go forward in faith, what the Lord wants us to do, and if all we're doing is preparing and laying groundwork for somebody else, then let's be found faithful doing that. We will take it as far as we can. But, as I've said before, what the Lord has been working here at the Brook Cherith is a sign. We've seen Him work miraculous ways in other people's lives and hearts, bringing so many things together that only He could orchestrate. He is showing us something about what He's doing here at the Brook Cherith. So we should desire to be a part, but we also do take into consideration He's preparing this place for immediately after the rapture. So while we don't know the day or hour, it does appear that what He's working here at the Brook Cherith is going to be very closely related to the day of the rapture. So we do take note of what the Lord is showing us by what He's showing us. And by observing what He's showing us and having us work on, we get a very strong educated guess that we have more time. We don't know how much more time. But then when we look on the timeline, and I just recently expanded it just a little bit more, just to give you a better idea. When we do look on the timeline, we find some interesting things that Jesus mentioned relating to His coming. We see the summer solstice is coming up, which reminds us about summer. And we also see the 4th month is coming up soon too on the Hebrew calendar. Which is interesting because the 4th, 5th, and 6th month on the Hebrew calendar was typically considered summer for the average Joe. And it does catch our attention how this year it's pegged pretty closely to the summer solstice too. But, you know, just like in Gregorian cultures, we sometimes consider June, July, and August summer, just those calendar months. They do the same thing with the 4th, 5th, and 6th month. So when we consider where we are right now, around June 3rd, and what the Lord is having us work on with the Brook Cherith, and that's what the notes are down along the bottom, and when we consider what Christ said about this summer time, and where we are right now in late spring, awaiting our beloved, and we see Venus about to appear as the morning star any day now, and just a lot of things going on right now. The days of Noah and Lot, definitely. When we look at where we are now, what is coming up right now for the average Jewish person, their understanding of the summer months, and even just the summer solstice too, astronomically on the celestial clock, we see how that comes together, and we say, well, there is time before an important event that Christ used in parallel with His coming. And we talk about that right here. There's links in the description box for the timeline. But what did Jesus say in Matthew 24? Let's look at the Bible. It'll be a whole lot easier. And you read it here. Matthew 24, right after He quickly skimmed through answering the disciples' questions, He changed the subject to what they needed to pay attention to. Now learn the parable of the fig tree. When his branch is yet tender and putteth forth leaves, ye know that summer is nigh. Excuse me. So likewise, like that pattern, ye, when ye shall see all these things, know that it is near, even at the doors. Verily I say unto you, this generation shall not pass till all these things be fulfilled. And we can bank on that. We do not know the day or hour, but we are still told to watch. And Christ is coming back during the days of Noah and Lot, while life is still going on like normal. And so this is what we keep in mind when we see the riots and stuff going on the news. Yes, it's crazy, but we keep in mind the economy is still going. People are still buying and selling. There's still food on the shelves. Yes, things are crazy and somewhat surreal, but life is still going on like normal, like Christ described it would be when the Son of Man comes. And so as long as these characteristics and this checklist that He gives keeps going, we know we're in the high time. But we also see, when we look on the timeline, paper here, here we go. And we've talked about this before. We are way over here, and we talked about the Chinese New Year. When the music stopped, things set into motion, the lockdowns, the economic impact. And what we're seeing now with the riots is a continuation of things that were set in motion at the Chinese New Year. The chaos. The house of cards is already falling. And this is what I've emphasized before. Things were set into motion irreversibly at the Chinese New Year, because they know time is very short. They know it's all going to wrap up pretty soon. The order out of chaos that they are aiming for, they've already set those events into motion. And so we're at a time here approaching summer when we see a lot of things ramping up even more. And you look on social media and the news, and people are really out loud asking what could happen next. Aliens, the rapture, meteors, asteroids, whatever. People are really open to considering that there are more crazy events coming. People are already preconditioned to it now, because the past months have already been pretty crazy, because the world is changing. And then right now they see the fabric of society and the thin veneer of civilization disappear. But we notice we're at a prophetic time that relates to summer. Summer right there, astronomically and also on the Hebrew calendar, which reminds us of what Christ said. So likewise ye. And this is what we take into consideration. He used parallel patterns. He said, just like a fig tree, just like the branches put forth, and you know that summer is nigh. And let me illustrate this for you. When you see a tree budding, that tells you that summer is coming up. And he says, so likewise, just in that same one leads to the other pattern. He says, when you see these prophetic things, you will know his coming. The coming of the Son of Man is nigh. That means it's coming up. It's not here yet, though, but it is coming up nigh, and he will be coming during the days of Noah and Lot. So when we look on the timeline, when we consider where we are right now, and what the Lord is working here on the ground level and showing us about it, and then also showing us that summer is over here, we are over here. We have seen so many things with Pentecost and Ascension that reminds us our beloved, who is espoused to us, he is returning. We have that promise at Pentecost. But he himself said, likewise, in that pattern, you will see some things that tell you other things are coming up. They're not there yet, though. So we keep this in mind when we look at where we are and what the Lord is working here now. We see the specific pattern that he mentioned of summer. Summer being nigh, summer coming up. When you see the trees bloom, which happened a little bit time ago in early spring, that told you when you saw that this time was coming up. And so notice there's a time gap that he's showing. And he's saying this is just like the same pattern for the coming of the Son of Man. You're going to see things that tell you something's coming up. And we've talked about in Hebrews 10, we will see the day approaching. We will see it in the approach. We will see it ahead. And somewhere before that, though, he is going to come take us before that day of indignation starts. Whether that starts at the summertime around there, I don't know. We don't know the day or hour, but we see the specific example of summer, that pattern, which he specifically mentioned here, related to the coming of the Son of Man during the days of Noah and Lot. And we find both the days of Noah and Lot and summer here in this same Gregorian month, and even really in the same biblical month too. This third month right here. But June is often associated around the world with pride events, and they're normally kicked off around that time. So there's a lot that tells us there's so many things that match up exactly with what Christ said would be present when we know that he is nigh even at the doors. It's going to be just like the days of Noah and Lot. And we see that the world is still going on like normal. You go to the hardware stores and they are jam-packed with people making renovations and plans for what they're going to do for the house. They're building and planting, and they're still going on with their relative plans for the future. Because yes, there are disruptions going on, but that generally hasn't changed how people are living and planning right now. And so we observe where we are right now at a very important, just over a 2-week period of time. And we consider what the Lord is showing us about power needs that can help the Brook Cherith shine and be functional and go well beyond what we've ever imagined. We see him emphasizing this power, electricity, and a lot of power right here at this time, which is interesting because we can look at the time and look at the biblical references and likewise and our expectations of his return, that yes, it should be in this area, and we shouldn't be surprised if it leans more toward the summertime. And yes, there does appear to be time to get this project done that he has pointed us to and has us working on and has already worked, bringing us thus far, so we can continue going forward in faith, knowing and seeing how it matches up with everything that he's talked about, and even the promises of the morning star. He is coming quickly. He's going to reward every man according as his work shall be. And he's looking for the overcomers who are found shining bright with their loins girded up, working on what the king told them to work on. So this is what I want to encourage you. Let's be found working on what he gave us to work on, to shine bright. And let's be found busy in the king's service. So there's a lot of things that remind us about the time, about the prophetic promises that are at this time. And then we also see in the news very, with the riots, trends of blackout. And obviously they're applying it to ethnic tensions. But there's another connotation that you could take out of it too. The enemy knows what's going to happen to the world when the door of heaven opens. They know there is going to most likely be an electromagnetic surge, an EMP effect that will black out a lot of the world's areas. And if you think about the chaos that's going on right now, the thin veneer of civilization, over the past months, tensions in all the major cities are across the world. Most of the world's population, there's a lot of internal tension built up, economic strife, a lot of angst built up in people. And now we're at a time, imagine if where we are now, after the music has stopped already, imagine if this time where we are now, if the power goes out, how much chaos there will be from what they've been building over the past few months. Building to this time where they know once the lights go out, things are really going to get bonkers really quick. Because they know what's coming. They know where we are. We can see the day approaching. So can they. We must always keep that in mind. They can read the celestial clock. They can read scripture. They know the prophetic time. And they also observe how God is working in the world in preparation for that day of indignation that is coming. And so this is what we go forward. We see what the Lord has shown us, how he is working here, how he's worked in our own lives from this same place. He's given us so much information. Be ready. So many booklets about Christian living, preparing our heart, our life. So many things that the Lord has shown us from this place. Now he's showing us something about power. And shining bright in a dark world. He's inviting us to be a part of it. The lights here, they'll keep shining when the power goes out. These lights are on an automatic backup battery system. They'll automatically stay on when the grid goes down. They won't stay on for long, but just enough time for people to come here and figure out how to turn on the generator and all that stuff. Because a blackout is coming. And the world knows that. And what kind of light are we going to be leaving shining in this world? Is it a light shining at an inn? Is it going to be a lamp that's burning? Christ wants to find us with our loins girded up and our lights burning, shining. And this is the example he even used right here in this same conversation with the disciples where he told them that he was coming just like how summer is nigh. He's coming during the days of Noah and Lot. And so he gave the example of the 10 virgins. 5 were shining, 5 had been shining, but they let their lights go out. They weren't shining when the beloved showed up. So this needs to drive it home to us. The emphasis Christ does want to find us with our lights burning when He does come. Here at the summertime, here during the days of Noah and Lot, here at a time wherein the world morally and spiritually is getting darker every day, and we know that very soon it's going to become a very dark place. So it's interesting how the Lord is using the Brook Cherith as a sign about the time, but also as a metaphor. Using these reminders for us to shine bright. Are we paying attention to how we shine now? Because that light should shine. We want it to shine after we are gone. You know, the most important thing you can leave behind for your loved ones and for your neighbors, it's not a place full of stuff and food and all sorts of stuff like that, or a bunker or whatever. The most important thing you can leave behind for those in the days ahead is going to be your testimony. How you shone for your Redeemer, what was seen shining in your life that brought glory to your Father. Are we shining with our heart and lives now? Are lives exhibiting the love of Jesus Christ? Are we purifying ourselves even as He is pure, so that our lives are acceptable in His sight? Of our strength and our Redeemer, the words of our mouth, the meditations of our heart. When we attend to those, when we purify ourselves even as He is pure, the world will see that in us. And that increases the light that is seen shining in our life. They bring glory to our Father because they know that didn't come from us. We're plugged into something else. Something that goes beyond us, something that's not natural to love like that, to live like that, to talk like that, to act like that. How we live should demonstrate our faith and our love in our Redeemer. And that is the most important thing that we need to attend to right now. How is our lamp burning? Are we plugged into anything? Do we have any oil in our lamp? How are we shining now? What kind of light are we shining in the days ahead? We are aware of the time that it's high time to cast off the works of darkness. Let's put on the armor of light. Let's put on our Lord Jesus Christ. You know, this whole time here in the month of June, it's so crazy. Welcome to my world. It's so surreal here sometimes. The Brook Cherith is a very unique place because the Lord has shown us so many things here. He's shown us celestial things, astronomy. He's shown us biblical prophecy. He's shown us medical missions. He's shown us Christian living. He's shown us a whole wealth of information. Posters upon posters, booklets, so many resources He's shown us here at this place, the Brook Cherith. And He's shown us things about time too. And time and power. Now, this is very interesting for me just personally to see how all these come together here in June of all times. Remember, that's when the Star Bethlehem sign was seen, June 30th, 2015. But it was also around that time that the Lord was working here at the medical mission side, because I was working on a power project that the Lord brought about the information related to time. We have our resource, The Time of Perplexity, which if you read it, it's very perplexing. A link in the description box, it's very surreal. But that came about by going forward in faith with the field hospital. And this is why it's so important for you. Don't skip the Brook Cherith videos or the information about the medical missions here and think, oh, that's not for me. I just interested in the celestial stuff. No. It all goes together. I would not have been able to hear what the Lord was going to show about the time of perplexity and time, and how time will be put into the power of the hand of the Antichrist, the son of perdition who's coming, unless I had been working on power for the field hospital. And it's interesting here at this time, I've been looking at a 10 kilowatt generator just as a backup generator too. But back at that time, you'll remember the time patterns and changes video that we did, times in the Bible, all those resources. Our Lord gave all that information. At the same time, I was working at a 10 kilowatt generator source of power for the Brook Cherith at that exact same time. And it's by working on that project that the Lord reinforced what He is showing and giving a lot of information on and insight into relating to time. These all go together. So this is why you need to pay attention. What is the Lord showing us here at the Brook Cherith? Relating to time, relating to lights, relating even to oil at this time. The diesel that's going to go in the generator. The Lord's showing us something because He's acting out as a metaphor, a sign for us, a metaphor for us, of reminders of how He wants to find us with our lights burning. There's so many things that we need to pay attention to, everything that the Lord is showing us about this time. How are we shining? How are we shining when we know that time is very short and we're at a time where the summer draweth nigh? We're during the days of Noah and Lot. We know time is short. Are we seeking to be a part of what the Lord is doing in this particular sign that we know is going to shine even beyond in the days ahead? Let's be a part of it. Let's put oil in our lamps. Let's trim our lamps. Let's rise up. Let's shine bright. Let's go out to meet our beloved. Hearing Him, heeding Him, loving Him, and serving Him. First and highest above all else. Till He comes. Maranatha.